Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Let me know if you're here live, because that's always fun. If you haven't already, just take a moment to pop into the group posts, and I've posted a PDF of our workbook that we're going to work through. Hello, Jan. There's a PDF of the workbook that we're going to work through. There's only 2 images that have got colour, but just printed in black and white. The colour isn't important for what we're going to be doing. I have, hello Nicole, I've posted it as a PDF and also as a Word document. So I'm very kinesthetic as a being, and I really like with things like this, it's very much a pen and paper process for me. Good morning, Trish. So that was why I started with the PDF, and it's designed to be a companion for our masterclass that we're doing, but also has some space for your sort of ongoing review and things like that through next year. So there's space for you to just keep this for the whole year, to check back in with your goals and all that kind of stuff. Good morning, Phoenix. It's also uploaded as a Word document, so they're 2 separate posts. So if you're more of a type in the wisdom and doing things online, then you've got a Word document to work with, and you've also got a PDF to work with if you want to print it off. If you're listening and you don't have an opportunity to print it off or to look at it, maybe you're driving, or maybe you're, what about doing, you've got a baby in your arms or something like that, just listen. The bits that need to be, like, I'll read out the bits that need to be read out, and so you can do as much as you can do. Good morning, Melanie. You can do as much as you can do on the class, and then, as I've said, the video is going to be available later, so you can go back and use your workbook and do the bits that you want to do moving forward. My intention for today, other than sharing with you a process that I go through at the end of every single year and have done for, I want to say as long as I can remember, but I know I wasn't doing it when I was 5, but I would say at least 15 years, and just invite you into it. Hello, Melanie. And we can't do the whole thing in 2 hours. So some of it we'll be doing on the call, and some of it will be, you'll be actioning later, because these things are important. How we want to honor ourselves and how we want to live our year is important stuff, and you don't want to race through. The idea isn't to finish quick. The idea is to finish in a self-honoring, self-loving, let's make next year really amazing kind of a way. So let's kick off. So part 1 in our 2019 Transformational Planning Masterclass is honouring and accepting beautiful you right now in this moment. Now, there's 2 reasons why this is really, really important. The first is, right now is the only moment in which you can actually affect any kind of change. And, I've still got an itchy nose. And I've seen a lot of people make goals based on something that isn't actually happening right now. That wasn't my best sentence. So we can't set a goal in 10 kilograms time. So when I'm that, then this is this. We can't set a goal in when that person does this, then I can do my part. It's kind of, we can't set a goal based on the future. We need to set goals based on what's happening right this moment. So the very first action that I'm going to invite you to take is to, first of all, come into the space where for the next 2 hours we're going to be focused on you, wholly, soulfully focused on you. Doesn't mean that your goals can't involve other people. It just means we can't make them the pivotal point of your beginning. So coming into you and just accepting the power of right now. We really need to accept where we are right this moment. It doesn't mean that what's happening right now is glorious and wonderful. If it was perfect, you wouldn't be coming along to something like this to plan next year being even better. So just knowing that where you are right now is perfectly wonderful, and it is the springboard for what you're going to be creating. So I'm suggesting that you craft a bit of an affirmation for arriving in now. I've given a couple of suggestions. One is, I accept that now is the only moment I can make changes, and I'm making those changes now. So affirmations like that, or the other one I've suggested is, every moment I choose something different, and I create, read my own, quote myself correctly, every moment I choose something different, I create powerful differences in my future. That's a little apple falling off the, I've got a little apple branch on my vase that got knocked down by a bird, and I wanted to enjoy them, but now the apples are all falling off. They're so cute. They're just this little. So you can feel like I accept that now is the only time I can make changes, and I'm making those changes now. Every moment I choose something different, I create powerful differences in my future. When you really land into those two things, it doesn't matter what weight you are, how much money you've got, what's going on inside your life, because we can't make a goal for $5,000 time, and we can't make goals based on anything other than the ingredients we've got right now. So I encourage you to craft an affirmation that works for you, that just brings you into the now. A lot of us have got really strong thought patterns around focusing on what we don't have. And so we really want to bring you into what we do have. So if anyone's got any questions about that, ask me. If you're watching this video later, then still ask me and I can help you. If you want to share your affirmation, if you like my two, then go for it. If you've got one of your own, then go ahead and share, because that'll be fun for everyone to receive. And I can always use more ideas. And when we do things as a group, everyone benefits. The other reason we want to honor and accept beautiful you as you are right now in this moment is because one of the major reasons why I see goal setting not leading to goal achieving is because people set goals that actually are not in alignment with the truth of who they are, and that aren't in alignment with what they value. So let me give you a personal example. Before I learned to really balance the dedication I've got for being a conscious parent and the dedication I've got to supporting a mindset revolution in terms of how we do mental health in the world, and being part of, active solutions for people feeling empowered, people accepting themselves and really creating lives that work for them. These two things used to be in competition for my time. And when I was in work mode, I would set these amazing goals as if I was a multi-millionaire with like unlimited budget, as if I wasn't a mum, as if I was partnered with staff. I'd have these massive to-do lists that felt awesome, but they just were not paying any attention to what was actually going on in my world. Sorry, that's my phone ringing. Not anymore. And the same thing when I was with my children, I would set these goals that were like based on not having to earn any money, and not working, and not having passion in any other area. And I'd want to do all of these amazing things in my space as a mum, but I'm only one person, and I've got one lot of 24 hours to work with. So I would set goals in my business and then did not have the time, energy, and resources to follow through on all of it. I get lots of it done, but I wouldn't get all of it done. And before I really embraced profound self-acceptance, that would lead to a lot of negative internal dialogue and self-blurkiness. So we want to, before we review your year and before we step into what you want to bring into 2019, let's really honor who you are. And in the workbook, I say this: imagine someone who never actually paid attention to who you are came along and did this big critique of your life and everything that was wrong with it. Imagine someone coming along who has a really fixed idea. We all know people like this, that has a really fixed idea of what every individual should be like, not taking any individuality into account whatsoever, and that they got to set your to-do list for the year. So in both of these situations, this is what we do to ourselves when we set goals without actually taking into account who we truly are. Because human beings are not one size fits all. We're just not in our likes and dislikes, not in our music taste, not in how much we think is the perfect amount of chili or wasabi, going from kind of blow your throat and brain apart to none at all. And absolutely not when it comes to what enlivens and inspires us and what depletes and depresses us. We're unique. And so the second exercise we're going to do is going through really having a list and beginning to honor what you truly value. So this is a huge process and it is so worth putting time into, and we're going to whiz through it pretty quickly. And I encourage you to go back to it later on with your booklet or with the recording in the booklet and have a bit of a look at the table that's in the booklet. So under the heading of honoring what you truly value, we've got a whole list of things. Now, this is by no means the complete list of values in the world. It's just a list that I've put together and I'm adding to it. Let me know how many of you are working with a booklet that are on here live, and then I'll know how much to read out. So knowing what you value allows you to do lots of really, really useful things in terms of how we review the year and how we set goals for the following year, and also helping you to understand why you feel inspired and why you perhaps don't. So I have a broken toe sitting straight underneath my desk. So if you see me doing lots of moving around, it's not because I've got some sort of disorder. I'm just trying to keep my leg comfortable. All right, so in the table, I'm going to just read out a bunch of these. We've got things like achievement. You might really value achievement, challenge, encouragement. That might mean being encouraging or being encouraged or both. You might value creativity, consistency. You know, some people really value change. Some people value consistency. We're all different. Connection, friendships, family, courage, fairness. You might really value integrity, inner strength, inner peace. I was thinking I was going to read all of these out, but it's going to take far too long. You might really value sensuality, like being connected and embodied in your body. You might value commitment, leadership, structure, spontaneity. You might value variety or mastery in just one thing. You may really value self-awareness, emotional intelligence, being truthful. One of my values is escapism. And I achieve a lot in my life, and I absolutely love, it's really, really important for my weekly well-being to have some escapism, to escape into an amazing book with a world that I didn't take part in creating and just receive. And that's actually really important. So be bold, and you can have escapism on there if that's one of yours. There's nothing wrong with it. You may value strength, security. You might value the process rather than the result. You might value the results. Let's have a bit of a look. You might really value having control. This isn't always a bad thing. You may really value accuracy. You can feel the here, and accuracy. And if you value accuracy more than you value achievement, you can kind of begin, I'm assuming, to start to feel the difference. You might really value hard work. You might value status. Financial security might be super important to you. You might value experiences over stuff. You may value originality, having purpose. Now, there are some people that can do have hours and hours of an activity that has absolutely no purpose other than enjoying the activity. And there's other people that just can't imagine spending time on something that had no tangible outcome. Neither people are wrong. We're just really different. You might value emotional intelligence, self-discipline. You may value recognition. Justice and fairness might be really important to you. So what I encourage you to do is really go through that list. Add, while you're reading it, you might come up with some other words that aren't in there. And so just really take note of those. If you're new to working with me, or you haven't done this kind of work before with anyone else, I want to really welcome you to you, like beautiful, powerful, amazing, unique you. And you are allowed to value whatever you value. And when we begin looking at this year and farewelling it and going into next year through the lens of knowing ourselves and knowing what we value, and knowing that right now you are actually perfectly okay and it's all right to be where you are. You're not meant to be somewhere else at the age you are now. You're not meant to be anywhere but right here. And right here is where you have all the ingredients that you need to thrive. It's such a beautiful way to set goals. And I hope that you can see why it's valuable to start here before we start looking backwards or looking forwards. So if you've got any questions, there's some of you that are on live. So if you've got any questions, just let me know. The essence of that exercise is to create a list of things that you know that you value. And it might be really huge. In time, you might kind of order them, but just use this list or have it front of mind while we're going through the rest of the class. Sip of water. So part 2, your year so far in review. The year's not finished yet. I'm going to give you an exercise to do, which is really about looking back over 2018 month by month. And there's space in your workbook to do this, where I literally did like a whole page for each month. If you're a big writer, then maybe when you print it, don't go double-sided, and then you've got a whole 2 pages to write about. So how do you do this? I want you to go back and look through the photos that you took, look through whatever social media accounts you've got, look through your diary or your planner or your journals or wherever you can access your records for the year. And remember as well that some of the best moments in our life aren't recorded, especially if you're not into photo taking and journal writing. If you know your partner takes most of the photos, you might have to borrow their phone or their camera or whatever. Or you may need to just dig into your memories. You know, if you're someone who really values family and connection, some of your best moments will be sitting around the dinner table or on a car trip somewhere, all having a laugh together and having fun. And they're not the moments that you necessarily put in the album, but they're actually what creates the juice of life. If you're someone that really values fun, some of your funnest moments, again, you might not have had a camera there. It might just be more catch-ups you had with people or things that felt kind of ordinary and everyday, but they're actually what makes our life, special and amazing when we're living values aligned. So we won't go through it. We won't stop and do this right now. I encourage you to go back and do it later. But I want you to go back through each month, January through to now, and pay particular attention to things that aligned with your values that you've identified. So these are likely to be your best and most positive experiences, each and every month. Also pay attention to what violated your values. And violated sounds like a big word, but what kind of interfered with your values. And these are most likely going to be the things that upset you. If you value truth and honesty, even when being truthful and honest is hard and someone lied to you, that's going to be like, oh goodness. Or if you chose not to tell the truth in a situation because you just didn't have the courage, that's going to be one of your moments where you go, "Urgh." So having a look at the things that happen each and every month that align with your values, the best moments and the things that didn't. What were your challenges and your setbacks? What did you do to overcome them, or are they still a work in progress? What have you learned from your experiences? So you might have a look at March and you were at a work thing then and you remember, oh, okay, that particular talk or conversation didn't go so well, but I learned this and this and this. So just having a look at, okay, what you learned from the experience and what's that learning led to down the track. So sometimes we can have an experience that's a values violation or that's a values conflict, but it leads down the track to implementing something really amazing. So in a lot of my work, I'm teaching people how to communicate with their loved ones in a way to create different results. So it might be in June this year, I actually sat my partner down and explained this and this and this and this and how I was feeling, and now we're in a completely different place, and that was a really amazing turning point. So what's happened? What have you learned from it? What's that meant for you down the track? And also, what can you take away from that experience that'll start developing your guidance on, the two lists that we want to pay attention to, the what I want more of list and the what I want less of list for 2019. When you take the time to go through your year and do this, you're going to have so much more clarity around, firstly, how wonderful life already is. And secondly, a whole lot of really useful data for beginning the planning of 2019. So obviously, you'll need to, for those of you that are on live, you'll have to go back and do this later. If you've got any questions, just ask me. For those of you watching the recording, just pause and go through that process before you carry on. I've got the workbook up on the screen, so I'm just zooming through my year. So I want you to frame up 2018 through the lens of what you value. Take some time to really look at, okay, the good, the bad, the ugly. What do you need to let go of and stop doing? What do you need to embrace and start doing? It might be that you did a little bit of it and you want to do more. What is on your want less of list and what's on your want more of list? I'm going to give you a couple of examples just so that we're not sitting in the vagaries of life. If one of you that's on live wants to share something that you value, I can help you. Otherwise, I'll just use examples out of my own coaching practice and experience. So let's imagine we've got someone and they really value learning, development, and growth. So there's someone who just wants to be the best they can be, and they just love learning and development. So as they go through the process that I've just encouraged you to go through, and they're looking through their year, they might look at, in terms of the good experiences, they're going to be looking at, oh, I learned that, and I learned that, and I learned that. But they also can look through those substandard, blurky, yucky experiences through the lens of learning, growth, and development. So really looking at, okay, I didn't enjoy that, or that was painful, or that hurt. Here's what I've learned from it. So when we can digest emotionally through the lens of what we value, we're able to really begin composting our experiences. And by that I mean taking what we're discarding and really letting go and allowing it to nourish and fertilize our future. Because the learning and growth and development you get from going through difficult times really can serve you wonderfully for a lifetime. and become something that when you think of, it doesn't trigger you into the pain. It actually just triggers you into your wisdom and how grateful you are for how far you've come. Let's imagine that you really value fun. So, and I mean, what a great thing to value. So you're going through the year and you're going in January, February, and you're thinking about all the stuff that you did was fun, right? People who really value fun, if they have about 3 days in a row where there's no fun, it can be very easy to go into Blurkyville where you're like, oh, life's just not fun, or I'm in a slump or something like that. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's just about, it's really awesome to go through the year and go, oh, that was fun, that was fun, that was fun. So really looking at the year through what you value. And also having a look at, okay, well, what wasn't fun? And fun is really important to me. What wasn't fun? And what can I do about that? How can I take the parts of my life and the events of 2018 that did not align with my value of fun and do something different with it going into 2019? What we want to do is, through this process of going through the workbook and watching the video, we want you to really, like I said, compost 2018. We don't want to spend 2019 carrying around smelly baggage about how unfun last year was. So if you've had some super unfun stuff and you really value fun, it's about looking at it through the year and going, okay, some of it you may have already actioned and done differently. Maybe you had a job where you just couldn't connect with any of your co-workers, and at some point during the year you applied for a new job and you've resolved that. Maybe that's something that you need to put on your list of things for 2019 as a goal. Good morning, Belle. I hope your son is feeling better. So looking at what the year has meant for you, the good, the bad, and the ugly, through the lens of what you value is really going to help you get clear on what you want to stop doing, what you want to do less of, what you want to do more of, and give you some information moving forward. So if there's any questions, just let me know. Even if you're watching the video, just tag me in the comment and we'll work through. So I can't go through, I've gone through people who value growth, learning and development, people that value fun, but we can do this with any value, looking at the year through the lens of what you achieved and also looking at those down points and using it as inspiration to make next year different. Because we don't have a blurky year for no reason. It's generally when you can look at the year and go, oh, I've been wildly out of alignment with my values. Hardly any of my time, energy and effort has been spent on what really lights me up. No wonder this year kind of sucked. And what can I do about it to make next year different? So we want to celebrate and really let go. The metaphor I often use is around looking at a forest and having a look at what leaf litter does in a forest. So there are some branches of some trees that just fall off for some reason. Maybe something heavy lands on them, like my little apple plant over there that a big bird landed on and it lost its little branch. Or maybe that leaf wasn't getting the right ingredients. Maybe it had some parasite vine that killed it off. But the branches that die fall to the ground. The leaves that die fall to the ground. The plants that just don't have enough sun or that don't have the right nutrients to grow in that environment become part of the ground. And that leaf litter becomes the compost that nourishes those plants that are thriving. And I want you to think of your life this way too. Sometimes we need to drop a branch. There are branches of my business that I've allowed to drop to the ground, not because I didn't love them, but because I just couldn't give them the time, energy, and effort to feel great about it. When I do things, I want to do them really well. And so that means that I can't have 16 top priorities, and neither can anyone. So sometimes we need to let branches go. Sometimes, like what happened for my apple tree, we don't actually get a choice. Someone just drops that branch for us. Maybe a partner has left. Maybe you've been retrenched from a job. Sometimes things happen that fall from our lives through no choice of our own. And it's really about celebrating what we can, learning from what we can, and letting that be kind of life litter that nourishes the parts of your life that can thrive. So kind of cycling a little bit back to what I said at the beginning, accepting that where you are right now, you do have ingredients to start making changes. You do. It might not be all the ingredients you wish you had, but part of what you craft for next year can be getting more of those ingredients or making more of that time. So we want to celebrate and let go. Really forgive yourself for any screw ups. Do you know what I mean? Just let them go. Let them be life litter. No one wins when we look backwards at what we feel we failed at and just stay there. No one's winning. If we failed another person, it doesn't actually help them. If we failed ourselves, it's not helping us. I'm not saying you get to behave in a shoddy way and then just trot along and don't have any feelings about it. I'm just encouraging you to just digest those feelings and compost them. And if we've stuffed something up, then what can you learn from it? And let's focus on now and open the door to a new future where we create new possibilities. Now, part 3, zooming through our workbook. Part 3 is about choosing your theme for 2019. You've got some healthy leaf litter. You're going to inspire yourself with juice. You know what you value, and you've started the what I want less of, what I want more of. So I want you to think about your theme for the year, what you want 2019 to be about for you. And this can set the tone for your entire year. So usually it's a word or a phrase. For me, 2018, my theme was embody my value, which to me was about all the stuff that I teach, really listening to the wisdom going on moment by moment in here, and anything that felt like a compromise to me and my being and my own value, actioning that. So it meant losing some branches of my life tree and letting some things go that just didn't feel nourishing or good. It meant if something happened and I felt awkward or uncomfortable about it, it meant that I just went, you know what, this is about embodying my value. And I had some difficult conversations with people. And thankfully I know, I've got some skills around doing that. So it's just about, I made my own value important enough that I didn't let slide things I previously would have let slide. And that's actually a wonderful gift to give in your relationships if you know how to own your stuff. So it's not a projection, but still talk about how you feel. So that's just giving you an example. And that theme really supported me in I've made amazing, really profound changes in my business and in lots of my connections, the way that I do money and pay myself, and how I've treated my body in terms of, the decisions that I've made. So it's been really through every area of my life that's been really useful. My theme for 2019 is Transformational Abundance. And this around, when I say the word abundance, for me, that's about an abundance of time, an abundance of freedom to make decisions based on my desires rather than restrictions. It involves, it's that amazing feeling of there's more than enough, and to take those changes that I've started from the Embody My Value year and really open up to them. And there's also some overseas travel I've got planned and some really fun sharing I've got planned for my next book that's getting edited at the moment, The Happiness Recipe, and doing some book tour stuff with that. So when I see Transformational Abundance, the word transformation means I'm doing things differently, and the word abundance to me means, and I'm doing it in a way that feels free and easy and juicy and nice. So what do you want your theme to be for 2019? And those of you that are on live, share it with me. It's fun. It's fun to share. Let me have a sip of water. When you think of what you want your year to be, I just saw Belle, your little boy is feeling better. That's good. It's really tough when your kids are sick. And it becomes, I know for me, in terms of talking about values from before. Once my kids were sick, all the other values went out the door, and that's where I needed to be front and center when they were too young to be part of their own healing. So yeah, it's a big rearrange, but they don't stay little forever. So yeah, what do you want your word or phrase to be for 2019, and claim it? What does that mean for you in your body, in your mind, in your energy, and what's it going to mean for you in terms of your actions? So share, let me know, even if you're watching it later. Now, a fun thing to do is, what's your theme going to be for the rest of 2018? Like, we still have time to start affecting some changes. We've got 2.5 weeks until the end of this year. So what do you want the rest of this year to be about? And really think of what you want it to be about in terms of what honors beautiful you. Because you're allowed to be you, remember, and where you are is perfect. And we're building your resources to make where you are the right place to open the door to where you want to be. So let's head into what I've called mining for your true goals. So this is really about not setting goals based on needing to be different, and not setting goals that are boring to you, and not setting goals that everyone else sets but that aren't actually in alignment with what you truly value. Because I guarantee you, if you do that, you won't actually take any of the action. It'll become those resolutions that we make in a moment and we don't take the action on. In order to have a goal that you take action on, it's got to come from the deep, honest, authentic truth of who you are. And then external motivation is not necessary. When we're inspired about something, we take the action. I don't need inspiration to ring my friend that's fun to talk to, but I definitely would need some external motivation to have a relationship I didn't want to be having, to just give a broad example. So as we start feeling into 2019, let's have a feeling to it under some broad headings. So they're all interlinked, but sometimes it can be really, really useful to separate them out before we continue to setting any goals. So here's the actions. I want you to think about your year next year and think, well, what do I want for my mind? What do I want for my body? What do I want for my energy? Now, this is going to mean different things to different people. To me, energy means your energy levels. So whether you wake up in the morning feeling like, oh, who doubled the gravity, life's hard, that place that I call the blurk, or whether you wake up in the morning feeling, energized and energy for life, and you're like, yeah, get me at it. I've just had a period of time like this writing my book, The Happiness Recipe. I was so inspired to wake up super early and do that in the mornings. It felt amazing because it was so values aligned, and I'm so looking forward to having this book in my hand and sharing it. So in the workbook, it's set up like this. So everything's backwards when you work on a screen like this. So mind, body, energy, and actions. So what do I want 2019 to be like inside the privacy of my own mind, inside this amazing miracle of physiological engineering that is your body? What do I want for my energy? And what do I want for my actions? What actions do I want to be doing? What do I want to be seeing? Yeah, what do I want to do? So it's kind of a separate way of saying, what do I want to be? What do I want to do? And what do I want to have? It's just a different way of looking at it like that. Can you see the value of separating those out? Because you can start to see inconsistencies. Sometimes what we want for our mind or for our body is not going to lead to having positive energy. So it's just about separating them out to start to see alignment and to start to see inconsistencies. Because when you set a goal and your mind, body, heart, soul is aligned with your actions, that is the bomb. It's just awesome. And if most of your life can be set up that way, then you're going to be having an amazing year. This is why I do this process every year, to really get clear. So we want to take some time now. I feel like I'm whizzing along, and I'm so used to teaching workshops in person where, you know, we would be together for the whole day and we'd be actually taking the time to stop and do this. But I'm aware that you can take time in amongst everything else that you're doing and pause and do the work. So I'm just honouring that this is a bit of a whiz through, and, you know, just take your time later on to really drop in and share in the group. I want to hear about all the stuff that you're learning. We're going to move on now to setting your goals. So for those of you who've got my CD, this one, and CD is a bit of an old term now. You might have bought it on iTunes or Google Play or streamed it on Spotify or something like that. But the last track of that CD has a song called Expanded Limitless. And it's really about, you know, we're expanded and we're limitless, and do you know what I mean? We've all got the same ingredients of being able to set a goal and take action, and that makes life amazing. And one of the lines in that affirmation song is, I can't achieve my goals without setting some. And obviously this is quite self-explanatory, but it's amazing how many people live by default. Sorry, I'm having toe discomfort. For those of you that joined late, I have a broken toe and I've got it set up strangely underneath the desk with pillows. So many people live by default. And in their secret, you know, deep heart of hearts, they wish something different was happening, but they're not actually doing anything different by consistently practicing a different state of mind, a different state, like those 4 areas that we talked about just before. They're not really doing anything consistently daily different with their mind, with their body, cultivating their energy and taking different actions. So we know if we pretty much do what we've always done, we're going to get similar things to what we've always got. So setting goals for the year is such an awesome thing to do. Don't rush it. Take your time. Make sure they're in alignment with your values, and make sure they are, I was going to say safe, but that feels a bit melodramatic. Make sure they take into account your whole life. If you have got 4 children under 5, then you're not going to be running a marathon, working 80 hours in a business and achieving this, this, and this, writing your memoirs and looking after your aging parents 4 days a week. Like, it's not, there's just no chance unless you've got some sort of cloning machine. So we need to make sure that we're setting goals that take into account who we truly are and what we value and what is possible. So in a moment, I'm going to ask you just to sit with yourself and think, okay, what are my top goals for 2019? What are the big things that I want to be sitting with myself on the 31st of December 2019 and just going, yes, yes, I did it. Now, sometimes when we set a goal, and this is something that you may need to do, you may need to get some support with. I do a lot of this with my clients. Sometimes we need to set a goal that is a long-term goal. And in the short term, it means less of doing something or the other that you do really value, but that you just don't have time for this big goal. So as an example, when I wrote my first book, I didn't do any gardening. At the time, I didn't have a whole lot of money to hire a gardener like I have now. So the garden just looked like it was rented out to potheads that didn't care about the garden. And I was like, you know what, that just has to be okay. I did less of things that took time to create time and space to do this goal that I don't do every year. So that's just one example. I'm not saying that everyone that chooses to use marijuana doesn't care about their garden. I'm just being general. So sometimes we need to give up certain parts of our life in order to create time, space for other things. So if one of the big goals is some retraining or some education or something that's going to take a chunk of time, you've got to have a look at, okay, well, what can I realistically do less of in the short term to really benefit from this in the long term? So what do you want your top 3 goals to be for 2019? And you're allowed not to know in the moment. And if you do know right off the top of your head, still take them through the processes that we've been doing. Make sure their values aligned. Make sure they take the rest of your life into account as well. If you have any questions, then just come on down. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, when I set a goal, it's pretty much at some point between goal setting and goal achievement, my weaknesses and insecurities are going to come up. It's a pretty human thing. Sometimes there's a whole avalanche of them. So set these goals, your top 3 goals for 2019, and I want you to take some time now to think about what are most likely going to come up as your stumbling blocks around achieving these goals. What have you gotten stuck with in the past when you've made commitments to yourself? So I shared earlier, I used to get stuck in my business commitments to myself because the role of motherhood would absolutely take precedence if the kids were unwell, like I was just saying before, because Belle's gorgeous little boy has been sick. And I would also, I was wanting to teach my children to read and be there for that and drop them off and pick them up every day and not have too much childcare. And so it just didn't quite work. So that would come up. So if this was me rewinding the clock, 10 years, it would be, okay, I know when I make big goals for myself, I know the time and energy for parenthood comes up. What am I going to do with this? How can I plan? So, for working around it. So if you have a think about those goals, what's likely to come up for you to get in the way? You can share with me and I can answer directly to what's happening for you. Or just inside your own mind, think, okay, what happens when I commit to things in the past? At what point do I stop or get distracted or give up or pretend I never really wanted it anyway? All that stuff that we do, right? That pretend I never wanted it anyway thing will not happen when you choose a goal that sits with your values in alignment. So already that's going to be a huge win. So naming those things that are likely to come up, and now what can you plan, or what can you think about to overcome them? So some examples would be good. If you're on live, you can give me examples and I can talk to those, or I can type in there later on in the comments. So if one of the things that's likely to come up, let's think. If you often set physical health and fitness goals and you go at it hell for leather, and this is what happens every time, and then you hit the whatever it is 4-6 week mark and you get an injury. Let's imagine that's been your pattern. Something happens, you get sick, you hurt something happens, it gets in the way. So if you were doing this and you're going, right, 2019 is the year that I'm going to finish the year and have better test results around my overall indicators of health and wellness, or I'm going to fit into those genes, or whatever the goal is that's important to you that matches your values. I know historically I tend to get interrupted by injury and illness. So to me, a way that you could plan to overcome that is, the obvious one is, don't go hell for leather. You know, in the tortoise and the hare that goes hell for leather, and the tortoise that just slowly but steadily attends to each step, the tortoise wins the race. So when it comes to health goals, often, now everyone is different. No human being is one size fits all. So if this doesn't apply to you, just imagine that it applies to other people. But most of us are better with slowly but surely less of a commitment each day or week, and having that commitment continue for 12 months. So most people grossly overestimate what they can do in one day if they're in one of those planet kind of moods, and then grossly underestimate what they can achieve in a year with steady progress. So that would be one of the ways to overcome that, is, you know, less is more, doing less but consistently. I have one of the clients that's doing my 5-month Transformation for Life one-on-one package, committed to 20 minutes of exercise a day. Now, she used to be an incredibly super fit runner, and now is just doing that. So the super fit runner wants to set a goal where it's like, right, I'm going to be doing this. It isn't sustainable in and around all of the other commitments that she also values. So she's doing 20 minutes a day. And you know what? She shows up and she does it because it's doable. It's much easier than finding an hour and a half and working out in a way where you forget that you've, you know, had 3 years off since you were fit last. So less is more. And that works for if you set goals around money and you save like 3/4 of your wage, and then there's no other ways to increase your income, and then in the next month you're borrowing that to pay the rent. So it's just about going less is more. Steady progress gets us to the goal. I'm happy to workshop anything individual that comes up for you that isn't covered. Now, self-awareness is one of your greatest assets, as is the power to make conscious choices. So we have 2 options when it comes to our weaknesses. The first is total self-acceptance. So an example of this would be what I've shared in the booklet. Complex mathematics is not an area of strength for me, and that does not impact my daily life whatsoever. So I have no interest in prioritizing that changing. So I'm totally self-accepting around the idea that complex maths, I'm really great at budgeting and useful for life maths, but don't ask me to do algebra and anything complex. Yeah. So total self-acceptance means that if I chose a goal and I knew that complex mathematics was going to be part of the goal, my way of planning around that would be, okay, well, I'm going to have to outsource that part. That I just need to know whatever I need to know to make sure that I'm being honoured in the transaction, and someone else can do that bit. Yep. So total self-acceptance. Maybe technology isn't your superpower. It's that maybe that's a weakness of yours. You're allowed to totally accept that and work around it. There's other people that love technology and they really value being at the top of their game in that department, so get them to do the bits that, you know, where technology is required. So if you're going with total self-acceptance, you either do not make a goal where this thing that you're accepting is a weakness of yours isn't part of it, or if it is a part of it, you're going to outsource that bit. Yep. The other option we have around our weaknesses is choosing to work on them. Powerful pause while I drink some more. Okay, so I'm just going to pour myself some water. I'm showing you so that it doesn't sound like a strange noise in the background. The second option when it comes to our weaknesses is choosing to work on them. So every single skill that you now have, you have to learn. Do you mean other than blinking? You know, the things that our body just does. Through trial and correction and ongoing time, energy, and effort, you have learned to walk, talk, use the toilet, drive a car, write. You've probably got better and better at having emotional conversations. You've learned how to use Facebook. You've learned to watch a video. There's things that you've learned how to do, and it took energy, time, and effort. So this weakness of yours that you've chosen to work on will not remain a weakness if you apply the same principles of time, energy, and effort, and what I call trial and correction, which is just a nicer way of saying trial and error, right? So it's trying stuff, seeing what happens. Is it helping you to learn? Is it not? What needs to change? What isn't? And correct where necessary. Trial and correction, time, energy, effort. If you do that, this weakness won't stay a weakness, I guarantee it. Don't fall into the trap when you've chosen to work on your weaknesses of comparing yourself to anyone else. Because remember, cycling back into the themes of this whole masterclass, you are an individual. You're unique. There is no comparison between the beautiful truth of who you are and the beautiful truth of who someone else is. We cannot compare. There are things that you do and things that you've learned that you found really easy that other people would be really challenged by, and the opposite is also true. There are different kinds of intelligence. We're all exposed to different kinds of things growing up. You know, if you're brought up around a whole lot of machinery and watching people fix it, if you come to having to fix a piece of machinery you haven't seen before, it's going to be much easier for you than someone who's literally never seen the insides of a machine. Doesn't mean that that person is dumb or substandard. They've just got less neural pathways that give them any idea where to start. So don't fall into the trap. If you decide to work on a weakness, don't fall into the trap of comparing yourself to anyone else. Just keep remembering, and this is coming back to the affirmation I asked you to craft at the beginning, where you are now is the power that you have to change what's coming next. And if you just keep saying to yourself, if I keep trying and correcting from what I learn, and if I give this time, energy, and effort, I will become stronger in this thing. That is just how it is. Yeah. So working, if working on your weaknesses is the way forward, how are you going to include that in the achievement of your goals? Because all of this feeds back into those top 3 goals and any other ways that any other things you want to bring into 2019. How are you going to bring working on your weaknesses in to what you're planning? So we've got to just acknowledge when we make a plan that things will happen. This is why travel insurance exists. Yeah, because things happen, right? We lose things, we drop things, we trip over, this kind of stuff happens. So what are you going to do when it happens? We can't have a goal based on everything just being seamless, because that might happen, and yay, but it also might not. And if you're going to stop taking action towards something when the first stumbling block comes, then you will finish the year in pretty much the same place as you are now, maybe even feeling worse because you tried something and then you stopped. Depends on how your mind works. So taking all of this into account, knowing yourself, accepting where you are, understanding what you value, embracing your uniqueness, setting those goals, my next task for you is to write yourself a future letter. I have done this so many times. And sometimes when I was using a paper diary, I used to write myself notes through the year as well. But I've gone electronic now, so it's all digital. So writing yourself a future letter is done like you're writing a journal entry, or if you're not someone that journals or diarizes or writes your ideas down, maybe make it a letter to someone. You're writing a letter or an email to someone that you haven't seen for whatever reason for the year, and you're writing it from the position of, right, it's 31st of December 2019, and oh my goodness, what an amazing year I've had. So it's taking your mind forward to the end of 2019, having achieved those top 3 goals for the year. And we do this for numerous reasons. I'm not going to go into the whole whys and wherefores, but it's a really powerful way of priming our body and our brain and our being for where we want to be. So if we don't imagine the future, we're not creating those neural pathways of how it's going to be. We pretty much habitually just keep doing and being what we've always done. So I use this example a lot because it's so true. If you were wanting to learn a new language, just having the intention and setting the goal, it isn't enough. If you want to learn a new language and become fluent and think in that language and express and communicate and have friends that you can talk with in this language, setting the goal and attending a 2-hour masterclass, again, it's not enough. We need to, it doesn't matter how amazing the teacher is, what moves us from where we are to where we want to be are those daily actions, the time, the energy and the effort, the trial and correction in our mind, in our body, in our energy and in our actions. So I want you to just imagine a year of, enhanced mindset, whatever you're doing with your body, whatever your energy's like. You've arrived at December 2019, you've achieved those goals. What's it like? How was your year? What were the stumbling blocks that came up, and how did you workshop them? How did you do them? Thinking about what you value. So we'll go back to that example of valuing learning. Let's journal about what did you learn? What was the growth? What happened that you expected? What was surprising and delighting? If you value fun, like we talked about, let's do that. Like just put yourself at the end of the year and go, oh, and this happened and that happened and this was more fun than I thought and I achieved that and here's all the fun that created. So write yourself a future letter. So if you're using the workbook, I've literally gone, it's December 31st, 2019 and ... and you've got some time, got some space to actually just do that in the workbook. If you're going to use your journal, then do that. But please do it. And if you've set goals in alignment with your values, imagining them achieved is going to feel wonderful. If it feels anything other than wonderful, then we've got one of 2 problems. One might be a lack of belief. And so then we need to come on and look at, okay, lack of belief is a stumbling block. What can I do about that? Who could help me? What support can I access and do that work? Or you've set a goal that isn't in alignment with your values. So imagining achieving it just feels meh. And so then just back to the beginning and try again. So write yourself a future letter. Future you thanks you for all of this effort. All right, zooming along. I'll take just a second while I have some water and ask those of you that are on live, have you got any questions about the stuff we've covered so far? Have you got your workbooks opened? Is there anything you want to share or let me know about? I'll watch the comment feed, so I'll attend to that if it starts to happen. Okie dokie. So moving on, creating a self-honoring mindset for happiness and success. It's incredibly difficult to be happy if you're running internal dialogue about how crap you are all the time. Now, I know that sounds self-explanatory, but sometimes we're in such habits of thinking particular ways, we don't even pick it up. And that's one of the things I pick up with my clients a lot, is the way that they speak to themselves, even when they feel like they're pretty much a positive person and they notice negativity in others and consider themselves more positive by comparison. There's still a lot of stuff that goes on inside their mind that's energy draining rather than cultivating a nourishing internal environment. And we really do spend more time with ourselves than we spend with anyone else. So it's so good to get this relationship right. And what's right will be different for all of us because we're unique. So, part 7 in our workbook, creating a self-honoring mindset for happiness and success. So there's some questions to go through, and I'm going to read them out and just create a bit of space for you to have a think about what the answers to these questions right now. So if you had a self-honoring mindset for happiness and success, what would that look like to you? What kind of thoughts would you be thinking? How would you frame up that trial and correction? If you try something and it's a dismal flop, as things are sometimes, how would you frame that up? If you had that self-honoring mindset, how would you be able to think about that in a self-honoring way that kept you inspired to try the next thing? Having all of that positive and self-honoring mindset going on, how would you behave differently? What would happen, do you think? How would this mindset impact on your decision making? If you want to commit to having this kind of mindset that honors you and cultivates the right kind of internal environment for happiness and success, how are you going to keep this mindset and your goal to cultivate that front of mind? And if you are able to do that, which you are able to, it's just trial and correction and finding ways to remind yourself, how would this help you shape your 2019? So there's lots of different ways to keep this kind of thing front of mind. We're going to talk about daily practices a little bit later in the workshop. But there's lots of, well, let me tell you about some of the things that I have done. So in a few years ago, I was working on, self-love. I'm going to talk about a bit more about that later on. And so I had a reminder in my phone at 4 o'clock every day that said, I love you. And it came up at 4 o'clock every day. And I had another reminder that was a little bit more detailed, it was a few sentences long, that came up at 9 p.m. every day. So that afternoon time was when I had picked up kids. I would have worked for the day. I'd picked up kids from school. I was doing dinner or I was getting stuff from the shops and I was kind of busy. And if there was a time of day that I was going to feel frazzled, it would be then. And it was just this reminder. It popped up every day for me to just go and just remind myself of the goals I'd set around being loving and honoring with myself and honoring what I have achieved and what has been done, rather than focusing on the scattered energy or what wasn't done. So that was just a really simple way I had of reminding myself. And the one at the end of the day was, as I said, more involved, but sort of a similar kind of thing, just about honoring me in a loving way. I've just realized that was similar. That was years ago, but that was similar to embody my value. But this year, that's been a little bit more proactive. So what are the ways that you can help yourself have it front of mind? I use passwords for this too when I have a big goal, and certainly the theme for the year, big goals, things I want to remember. I use passwords for different things to remind myself. I use reminders in my phone. I use notes in my diary or in my calendar. I put things up on the wall, whether it's a vision board or an affirmations, lots and lots of different things you can do. Now, some of the ways to turn around a negative mindset, we all go there, and we end up in a negative mindset when we're depleted. So things that cause depletion are things like lack of sleep. And if you're someone that really values time and space to yourself, You're going to end up depleted if you've got a house full of guests and 3 people want to carpool with you for a month, so you don't even get time in the car to yourself, and right? So it's like when we're not getting what we need for our own happiness recipe, or we're not in alignment with our own values and priorities, we're going to be depleted. So some of it is circumstantial and some of it is biological. We're going to be depleted if we've got no vitamins and minerals in our body, if we've not moved our body, if we're really stagnant. So that can happen if you've had an injury or something like that, or if you're just having a particularly, indulgent period of time. It can happen, if you're looking after a sick person, there just isn't time for you. Whenever there's any sort of trauma, we tend to get very focused on solving that, and the rest of life can drop away, which is okay in the short term. It just doesn't work in the long term in terms of being resourced. So I use those terms, depletion and resourced. Resourced is when we're basically in alignment with our values, and where our body, mind, heart and soul are getting what they need. So what's soul food for you is, again, going to come back to what you value. And what our bodies need is, individual, but still there's some basics around there that we all need to eat food that's as alive as possible 80% of the time. So that's some of the ways we can get into a negative mindset. Here's a list of ways to help get you out of a negative mindset. So, adjusting for toe break. One is gratitude. Gratitude is an amazing way to shift a negative mindset. I have made it one of the top 3 life goals in years gone by. I'm really good at doing it kind of innately now, so it's not on the top 3 for next year for me, but it certainly has been more than once. So making gratitude a priority means, some people do it with a gratitude journal, like coming up with 10 new and different things each day to be grateful for. Sometimes it's a matter of just picking up, I'm in such a cranky pants mood. What can I be grateful for? This doesn't mean, if you're in a cranky pants mood for a really good reason, because your values are being compromised, you're not being valued by someone else, it doesn't mean gratitude and pretend it's not happening. Action the feedback of your body that you're dissatisfied. It's asking you for some sort of attention. Do that. Just don't take up residence in the dissatisfaction. Take some action, and then gratitude is kind of like aloe vera to your burn. If you have any questions about that, just type them in and let me know. So having gratitude at times when I have been, hello Mel, a new Mel, I've got 2 Mels on with me live, yay. Mel Abundance, see, Transformational Abundance of lots of Mels is happening for me already. So if gratitude wants to be something that if you want that to be something that you practice, I know when I was doing that years ago, it was 8 years ago, I wrote this story in my book, that's why it's front of mine, in the happiness recipe I've just finished writing. And things were hard. My beautiful little girl was very unwell as a baby, it created not a lot of sleep for me, and a lot of pull between the different parts of my life, and a lot of trial and correction on a lot of the stuff that we tried wasn't working, and it was really hard. But in that time, I learned to be grateful for things that I just had never, ever thought before. So when I was going to bed at night, that's when I really did gratitude, and I tried to do it through the day as much as possible. Probably had reminders on my phone about it too, knowing me. And I would be grateful for things like, I'm grateful that I have a heater. I'm grateful for the creative people and the farmers that led to the clothes that I'm wearing. Even if they were my daggy pajamas, I was comfortable, and someone designed it, and someone grew the cotton, and someone, did all of those things. I'm grateful for freedom of speech, that I live in a country where I'm allowed to say things about the leaders of the country and I'm not put in jail. I'm grateful for, you know, at the time I was a business owning single mum living in a home that I just purchased, and I would stop and think, wow, I am living the fantasy of women from, you know, 150, 200 years ago. I'm a single mum with 2 children. I've never been married, and I've never experienced a moment of judgment that I cared about, that impacted me on any way. A bit like not being great at complex mathematics. It doesn't, total self-acceptance, but it had never impacted on my life. I own my own business and set my own prices. The only ceiling on what I can achieve is self-administered. I owned property, I voted. And so it was like, oh, so much gratitude for these things that I wouldn't have been thinking about if I was thinking about all the stuff that was really challenging. So gratitude and looking at you know, having a new perspective on what we do have is a great way to turn around negative mindset. Another really good way is cleaning, clearing, and decluttering. If you've been in a negative mindset for a long period of time, for a lot of people that means your house is going to be a bit cluttered. There's going to be stuff on the surfaces. There's going to be clothes you haven't worn for however many years. We can cultivate some fresh energy by clearing out any of that. So clearing out your filing cabinet with the stuff that you thought you wanted to look into that you never have, clearing out your clothes and giving what you don't like, don't wear, don't enjoy, don't fit into, giving it away to people who will love it, taking it to a secondhand shop or whatever. Clearing, clean your windows. That always feels amazing. Yeah, cleaning, clearing, decluttering, it just creates energy. And if you're someone that values progress, then it'll actually allow you to see that you've achieved something. So there's all sorts of good stuff about that. Number 3 on my list in the booklet is I've titled Then and Now. So basically remind yourself of how far you've come, and you just go as far back as you need to really see that development. Move your body is another one. So when we're stagnant physically, it's the link between mind, body, and energy is just undeniable. So if you move, go out and have a walk. If you can't walk, I can't walk at the moment because of my foot, but there's other things that I can still do. Sit-ups, I can still do upper body things. I can still do things with my body that help shift that stagnation. If you don't have an injury, then just get out and move. Do some yoga, touch your toes, put a song on and just dance like no one's watching, and move your body. Another way to turn around a negative mindset is to immerse yourself into the future. So, hello, Debbie. I wasn't expecting to see you today because I assumed you were going to be at work. So how exciting. Debbie's here. Thank you. Really immerse yourself into the future. So this is part of the benefit of doing that future letter. Once you've done that future letter of 31st of December 2019, you reflecting on achieving those top 3 goals. If you're in a bit of a kind of blurky spot, just immerse yourself into that future. See it, smell it, taste it, feel it, and you will, when those goals and values aligned, start to feel wonderful. So it just creates a shift, and you'll probably come out of that feeling a little bit more energized or inspired for action. Which leads me on to number 6. So doing what you need to do to feel better in the moment, and then plan your next set of actions towards the direction of achieving your goal. So often this can be a little bit different depending on your values, but for most of us, getting focused on action and what's going to move us forward makes you feel better. It's more difficult to have a goal, not be taking any action towards it, and being focused on what you don't have or focused on other stuff. It's harder to find a way to feel better doing that. So shifting into action kind of pulls together a lot of what we've talked about. It pulls together kind of moving your body, even if what you're moving is just your mind into solutions. When we're solution focused, we have a different energy to when we're problem focused. Number 7, hang out with people who get you and lift you up. Sounds good. That's going to be even more important if connection, friendships, family, relationships, you know, synergy, if those things are high on your values list. But for all of us, if we're around people that are like, don't want things, life sucks, it's all awful, the world's going to hell, hopeful people are idiots, I don't know, I'm just trying to think of that stuff. That's going to be more draining than hanging out with someone that wants to hear about the goals that you've set and what's actions you've taken, and that's going to hold that space for you and everything that you're becoming. And even if you're not talking about your goals, just someone that you can laugh with, that you can have some fun with, that you can be honest with, whatever it is that you value, but hanging out with people that get you, where there's no judgment, there's just acceptance, and that lift you up, that's super, super great way to change that mindset. And number 8, which is obviously something I believe wholeheartedly in, is get yourself a coach. I have a coach. I pretty much always have a coach for different parts of my life, personally or in my business, and that's how I that's part of what I commit to in terms of my stumbling blocks. So it's amazing to be supported by someone who is that person that gets you and lifts you up, but also has the skills that you don't have and that can teach you to do it differently and hold that space for forward movement. So I don't need a coach for accountability. I'm very self-managed and self-inspired and self-motivated, and I'm really good at structure, but I need it for that, the skills gaps, if there is any, and to learn how to do it differently, and also to dream bigger than I'm allowing myself to dream. And all of those things are what I offer as a coach too, and it's just the best job in the world. So that's the 8 things there that I've suggested for turning around a negative mindset. You've got some space at the bottom of the page, so write down what you do to get out of a negative mindset. When you're in what I call that blurk, like, who doubled the gravity, you're depleted, everything's hard. What do you do that works for you, and just add it on there. So you want to keep this booklet as a bit of a go-to, so that you know what to do when you're feeling a bit blurk. There's nothing wrong with going there. It's really normal. It's just not taking up residence there that's the magic. So again, whether you're watching live or you're listening to the recording, do you have any questions? Is there anything that I can help you with about any of all of that before we move on? We're zooming through, which means we will probably finish a little bit early unless anyone wants to ask any questions. Awesome. All right, so moving on. Success, rituals, and habits. Now, success is whatever it means to you. To me, success is living congruently, like mind, body, heart, soul, all in alignment with my actions. That is the bomb. And that's what success means to me. Rituals and habits are such a powerful way to support yourself. And I want to start with the idea of a morning ritual. So who has a morning ritual or a morning habit already? I know that I do. It shifts and changes. At one point I had about 15 things I used to do every morning. And now I have, well, it was up until last week, 2 things. I meditated and I wrote my book, or worked on my book for an hour. That's what I did before I did anything else. I have finished the Happiness Recipe book, and it's with the editor now. So I'm doing other things with that hour, but I start my day with meditation. So morning ritual. So how we start each day has a really profound impact, and particularly accumulatively. So it's sort of like compound interest. What we do regularly each day has a massive, massive result over time. How we start each day really sets the scene for the day, and being deliberate about that will get you where you want to go faster. So it's really important that you know, if you've just joined, it's really important to go back and listen to what's come between now and then, and really embrace yourself as a unique individual. No one is in the exact circumstances that you are in. And this is my issue with any books or advice on the perfect morning routine, because we've all got different circumstances and things to consider, and we've all had really different nights before. You know, even your working hours, like I have people that do shift work but then have this judgment about themselves that they're not up and doing all this amazing stuff in the morning, and it's like, holy moly, like shift work that changes on a roster, so it's not even regular. It's one of the hardest things for the bodies to do. Don't add more judgment on top of it that you're not, do you know what I mean, following the morning ritual of whatever bestseller book. It's got to be something that works for you. There is no one size fits all in anything to do with being a human being. That said, I want you to have a think about what can you incorporate into your mornings to start the day in a wonderful way. That affirmation song I was talking about before, the expanded limitless song, in there, another one of the lines is, each morning when I open my eyes, I open my arms up wide and I say yes to life. You know what? That could be your morning ritual. You don't even have to listen to the song. You can just, inside your mind, just that one breath that you have before you're on for everyone else. If you've got young kids, or do you know what I mean, you've had a late night and you've got to get up and get ready for work, you can just have that one breath where you just say yes to life. It can be that simple. It doesn't need to be a list of 25 things. And if your day is already jam-packed, please don't make it a list of 25 things. Yeah? So what can you incorporate into your morning? So it might be a physical activity. I have a beautiful friend who owns a personal training company, and he was saying for people wanting to get fit, what you do is wake up in the morning, you have your sneakers next to the bed, you go to bed in something that you can run in, and you wake up before your brain has even kicked into talking to you about anything, put your sneakers on and run out the door. That's the advice he gave to people wanting to include exercise in. So if you don't have to look after little people at home, maybe you want to try that. I thought that was hysterical. And I've actually tried it earlier this year. I was doing this fitness class at the start of the year that was from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. And that's what I did. And then I got home and, you know, had a shower and did all that stuff. What do you want to incorporate into your mornings to start the day? It can be one thought. It can be a mantra. It can be 5 breaths. It can be, I mean, honestly, there's as many options as there are human beings, but put in the comments. What do you want to do? And just make sure that whatever the commitment is, it's doable. It might be 5 minutes of meditation you can do. So don't commit to an hour and a half and then feel bad that you only do it twice and then go, oh my goodness, it's too much. Yep, less is often more. Do you want to shift and change that morning ritual based on the season or other things that might happen through the year? So if you have a retail business, it might just be that, December morning routine goes out the window because the shops open more. Or it might be that you love being outdoors and you live somewhere that's icy and snowy and you might actually get snowed in. So you can't have a morning ritual that works for the whole year. So what are you going to do instead? And this comes back to what we were talking about before. What are the stumbling blocks? If one of your goals is, we'll just use that fitness and exercise example, what are you going to do if you can't get outside for some reason? What can you still do that's exercise? Well, there's heaps of apps that you can do on phones. You can do your own thing. You can stretch and move and dance or whatever you can do that gets your heart rate up. what can you do if you can't do that one thing? What can you change so that you can still do it? So really have a think about that. What would support me in the morning that I can commit to? And do I need it to shift and change? Does it need to be indoors sometimes, outdoors other times? Does it need to be more, you know, that's part of my morning routine in that half of the year, but I do it in the evening in the other part of the year. Yeah, if you've got something and you want to workshop it, then just, again, pop it in the comments. What do you want to commit to doing? And just make sure that it feeds, that it's a useful addition to those 3 goals. So to me, that morning meditation that I commit to supports everything else that I'm doing in my life. They're totally aligned. It's not one goal, it's separate from everything else. So whatever you want to do in the morning, just make sure it's in alignment with your values, that it totally reflects everything else that you've got going on, that committing to it doesn't feel stressful, that it feels good to imagine a whole year of doing it. And what do you need to build in as the shifts and changes when it comes to a time of year that your life is busier or the weather doesn't work or whatever? And how are you going to do it? So let's say if you've got this series of thoughts or visualizations that you do in the morning, and maybe you've got, and that's your daily commit, that's your morning ritual, and you have to get up to a sick child, where you can still be cuddling a child or cleaning up vomit or whatever you're doing, and still inside your mind giving time and energy to what you're focused on. So if life is really a bit of a mystery box in terms of what your mornings can be like, make it something that you can do, whether you're upright, lying down, inside, outside. You've got to make it, your morning ritual has to what's the word I'm trying to think of, diversity, it's got to be flexible if what your mornings are going to be like are going to be diverse. So share what do you want your morning ritual to be about? Do you need any help with actioning any of that for different circumstances? Let me know. The other part of this section is about daily practices, or daily practice, having a daily practice, and I've put S in brackets in case you want to commit to more than one. So I have been working in this personal development, personal change, profound self-acceptance coaching business for a really long time. I worked for other people for a while in and around full-time work, and I'm in my 16th year now of having my own private practice. So lots and lots of front row seats at watching people step into their power, love their life, transform their relationships with themselves and with other people, like more life experience than I could ever have had as a single human being. And I've also packed a whole lot into my 43 years as well. So believe me when I say there is nothing like having a daily practice that you commit to for building self-confidence and self-esteem. If there's single one thing, if building more self-esteem and building more confidence in yourself is something that you want to make one of your top 3 goals, having a daily practice that you do each and every day will build that confidence in a really short amount of time. I see turnarounds in even like a week or 2 with people that have historically broken commitments to themselves. Something amazing happens when they make a commitment to something that's daily. It doesn't work as 3 times a week or things like that. This is about a daily practice. And when they've shown up and they've said yes to themselves and done it every day, even at the 2-week mark, I start seeing the difference in their mind, in their energy levels, and in the way that they're speaking about themselves. This is just such a powerful thing to do. So I really suggest that you choose a daily practice for going into 2019. Now, your daily practice might be your morning ritual. It doesn't have to be lots and lots and lots of new stuff. And to be honest, most of us have a daily practice already. It just might be whinging, might be something that you do every day. Or eating junk food might be something that you do at one point every day or something like that. So we've got daily practices already. This is about choosing a self-honoring daily practice. So it's not so much about doing something extra, it's about doing something different. And that's really important for when you're feeling depleted and you want to buy into the lie that it's all really hard. You're doing all this stuff anyway, you're just going to choose something that actually gives you energy. So I suggest that you choose something and start it in the next 24 hours and do it every day until the end of January. So January 31st, 2019. And build in, so what we're going to go into next time is building in a bit of a review. So, and I'll get onto that in a second, but have a bit of a review. And at the end of January, you can decide, how was it? Do I want to keep doing this for February? Or do I want to change my daily practice to something else? So that client of mine that's doing 20 minutes of exercise at the moment, she might get to the end of January and go, you know what, I'm going to up the ante, or I'm going to do that and this, because her body will be ready for that next little bit of a challenge. I have, how long ago would this have been? My beautiful friend Mel, not one of the two Mels that's on live, but a third Mel that lives up in Darwin would know the answer to this. I would say it was about 13 or 14 years ago. I got really cross with myself. I felt like I was a gunner. Like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do this. And I felt so cross with myself about all this stuff that I wanted to do and I wasn't doing. And I knew about the power of daily practices and had committed to them before in the short term. And I made a decision to practice Qigong, which was a slow moving martial art that's like a moving meditation combining breath and movement that I was teaching at the time. I was a teacher of Qigong for just over 10 years. And that was one of my branches of my business that had to turn into life litter to energize writing my book and doing those other things. But I committed to doing Qigong every single day for a year. And I did it. And holy moly, sometimes, like, I had a little boy, he would have been 1 or 2 maybe, so it's more than 13 years ago anyway. And sometimes I would have this full-on day with him. He would wake me up and then I would fall asleep putting him to bed, and I'd wake up at 2:30 in the morning and I hadn't done it, so I got up and did it. It was a 15-minute commitment of the basic Qigong movements that I chose, and I did it every single day for a year. And I have not since committed to daily practices that last a year like that, because it was so massive and it didn't allow for any changes in my life. But having a daily practice that you review at the end of each month, but you do absolutely every day, is totally awesome. And if you want to like transform and make 2019 wildly different, then go ahead and commit to something for a year, because it is amazing. And I got the benefit from doing something that actually quietened my mind, got me into my body, got me breathing. Like, there was health and physiological benefits, but honestly, the most significant thing I got was this rock solid belief that I'm the kind of person that does what they say they're going to do. And it's just life-changing. So daily practices are really, really powerful. You don't have to go big and bold like I did. You can go big and bold, but for a month, and then build in review. So what are some of your ideas of a daily practice that you could commit to between now and the end of January? If you're really time poor, don't make it something that's huge amounts of time. It can be 5 minutes. But something magic happens when you actually do that every day and you show up for yourself and you become that person that does what you say that you're going to do. Even when it's hard and even when you're depleted, it's just soul food for all of us. And in the space at the bottom of the page, what are some of your other ideas? If you think it's going to be something that you do for a month, and maybe you're not going to make the commitment to do it all the way through the year. You know, if it's surfing, you might not want to do it in the depths of winter. So what are some of your other ideas for the rest of 2019? And just come back to this booklet and all of these ideas that you've got as you start planning through the year. So we set big goals going into the year, and then we support ourselves with morning routine and daily practice. And the thing that makes the most difference, that's a really bold thing to say, all of it makes a big difference, but the thing that's really going to create a massive difference is building in a monthly review. So having a check-in, and so that's where we're getting towards the end with 20 minutes to go. So I'll have time for questions if you've got any. So building in a monthly check-in it's just priceless. It's what sometimes people look at someone who's achieving their goals, and I've had this, people saying to me things like, oh, you're so lucky, or something like that. And it's like, you know what, the things that I've done in my life, it's not so much luck, it's intention, it's goal, it's making a plan, and failure is only possible if you set a time limit. So some of the business goals that I'm achieving in my business now was part of my vision over 10 years ago, but I just didn't have the time and the resources to give my business what I can now because I had little people and other things. And I was, just getting started in a new area and lots of other stuff. So it's not so much about luck, it's about intention, it's about values aligned goals, so you want to take the action. It's taking the action, trial and correction. When you hit a stumbling block, learning from it and continuing to try things rather than give up, and also doing a review. So what I'm encouraging you to do at the end of our booklet is what I'm calling a monthly check-in. And this is to protect yourself from what may have happened in the past. So you might have set a goal and you took action like awesome for a week, and then you took a bit less action, and then something got in the way, and then, oh, what's that shiny thing? And you forgot all about it. Or you got disheartened because you couldn't see the results, or you just stopped for any of the reason that we stop. It got hard, or you got hurt, or whatever, something happened that got in the way. The way to work around that is to have this monthly check-in. So first thing that I want you to do is go through your diary for 2019. So if you've got a physical diary, computer diary, whatever it is, and build in an hour with yourself every single month. So it might be, let's say you've got Thursday afternoons off work. So it might be the last Thursday of every month that you do this. You might choose the last day of every month, regardless of what day of the week that it falls on. It doesn't matter if it's the 28th, the 30th, or the 31st, or the 29th. At the end of the month, you're going to do this review, or you might choose to do it on the 1st. So on the 1st of February, you're going to review January. So whenever it is, just commit to it. If at any point during the year something gets in the way, just reschedule. You're not allowed to break this commitment to yourself. You can just reschedule it to when works. But just spend an hour with yourself, more if you want, but at least an hour. And the review is in 2 parts. The first part is about the review of the month itself. You're going to ask yourself questions like, it's going to be different depending on what your 3 big goals were. And so, I mean, I can't craft the questions for every single situation, but it's going to be things like, what actions am I celebrating? So I'm looking back at the month that's been. What actions am I celebrating? What worked out well? What do I want to keep on doing? Do I want to keep doing the same, or do I want to do more of it, or do I want to do a bit less of it but keep doing it? What didn't work? What am I going to just prune away? What's going to become life litter? What am I going to just delete, or what am I going to change? So this is the trial and correction. Looking back at that month, what fuel was I using? Fuel like F-U-E-L in the car. Was I fueling these actions with self-honoring stuff or self-depreciating stuff? Was I focused on what I'm moving away from? So if you've got a money goal, am I focused on, oh, I'm poor, I've got to take action, I'm desperate, am I focused on the pain, or am I focused on what I'm moving towards? Am I focusing on, oh, I'm closer and closer to that financial freedom I'm craving, I'm closer and closer to having the money to buy this thing or to have that paid off or whatever it is, right? When we fuel ourselves by what we're moving towards, just a kind of fuel, it's more economic for your whole being than being focused on pain. So what fuel was I using through the month? How was my mindset? Are there any changes required? How was my daily practice? Are there any changes required? So those kinds of questions. And feel free, if you've got a type of goal, those big threes that those questions don't work for and you want help, comment, tag me in it, and I'm totally here to help. The second part that we're going to be doing in that review is taking all of that information and setting intentions for the next month. So each month in review, we're reviewing the month that's been and setting intentions for the next month. So it's taking data out of those questions and committing to what you want to do. It might be committing to a new daily practice. It might be a shift in your morning routine. It might be choosing to access some sort of support. Maybe you've reached that point where okay, well, I need a coach to do this bit with me, or I need to create an accountability partnership with someone, or there's a skills gap I need to learn, there's a emotional support gap I need to fill. What am I going to do to make next month different? So that's the two parts. And in your booklet, I've done exactly what I did with when you were reviewing how your year. We've got sheets like this. So this is March 2019 in review, all the way through to December. And I've written here, how awesome am I for doing this for a whole year? Because if you do, holy moly, so awesome. And I guarantee your year will be different to this year unless you already do this kind of thing. So amazing. So this goal setting that's in alignment with the truth of who you actually are, and that takes into account the individuality of you and your actual circumstances, and then trial and correction and review. This is the magic that makes achieving your goals possible. It's not mystical, it's not unknowable, it's this combination of mind, body, energy, and actions that makes it happen. So please remember that your life deserves your time, energy, and effort. You really do. You're doing so much already, and it's not about doing extra stuff. It's just about doing different stuff that honors you. So we're coming really to the end. In the end of the workbook, it finishes with that beautiful how awesome am I for doing this for a whole year review page. So we've reached the end of our booklet. Like I said, if you are someone that likes to write, I'm very physical in that way. So I've got lots of different colored pens and texters and things like that, and I always have a journal. So I like to write in and keep something like this with me, and then I use this to then do the review, so it's all in one spot and I can see what's happening and what's changing. So that's what I would do, and we're all different. So you do whatever works for you, whether it's a document or whether you craft your own journal or whatever ways. I'm interested if you've got totally different ways, then share them in the group, because we can all learn from each other. So, does anyone have any questions? I've got quite a few of you on live, which is gorgeous. So just let me know if there's anything that you want me to go into more detail with, or if you want help with anything in particular. I'm feeling so chuffed with how I've used my time. I've still got 10 minutes to go and I'm through the book, so that's fantastic. Beautiful. Okay, so if there's no questions, I am going to just use the next couple of minutes to describe a couple of things that I've got on offer. So one of them is a workshop that I just feel so passionate about, and it came out of that journey I was talking about a few years ago, where I really committed to love and honor myself in a really lovely, practical way. And I think it was about 3 or 3.5 years ago that I developed this workshop. At the time, I called it Soulmate Self, which was about giving yourself the kind of love and care that you so easily offer others. I've made some changes to that program, and I have renamed it Practical Self-Love. I've had a lot of feedback over the years that people don't really get soulmate self, or it's a bit of a turn off because it sounds a bit strange or weird or something. So Practical Self-Love it is now called. And that's a series of